Hey, this is John Carlos, and I'm here with a look at the limited edition Weeping Angels 2-pack 6-scale figures from Big Chief Studios. This box is freaking huge. I know it has two, 12-inch scale figures, but I figured they'd be stacked like in front of the other, not, on top of each other. Not complaining, but I'm just saying it's a big box. It's over 2 feet tall. Jeez. Here's a look at the packaging, including a close-up look at the back, just so you can see, the little pictures and stuff at the bottom. First we got Certificate of Authenticity. The styrofoam packaging is separated into 2 sections. The top section has the bases, the heads, and the exclusive base and tombstone, and an extra special exclusive, which I'll get to in a moment. The bottom section, well, some of the stuff gets stuck to the tape there, but you've got an arm dangling here, but you got the bodies and the wings and the arms at the bottom section. Now this figure is made out of polystone, and the attachable heads and limbs are connected via magnets embedded in the pieces. And having played with it all, I'd say that most of it turned out pretty good, but I do have one little issue, and that's that, one, this is a separate piece that attaches with a magnet, built in there. I don't really see why it has to be a separate piece, because there's no alternate pose for it. But also it creates a little gap here, like it doesn't line up properly. It lines up perfectly fine on the back, but when you take it and look at it up close, you'll see that there is quite noticeably this big gap right there along the bottom edges here, and there's no other way around that. So that's kind of an annoyance. But other than that, this stuff works out really, really well. Like, I'll start off with her weeping head, just plugs in right there, and her weeping arms just go in like so, like next to this little socket right here. It's all just, and there's like paint over the magnet, so you don't even really notice the magnet even if you wanted to. And we can take off those arms and that head, put on like her angry attack head, and here's like her lunging arms, and then we have the attack arms. The wings just plug into the back like so. So here's a little lesson, kids. Don't take the wing and try to pivot it once it's in. There's these little grooved lines in the hole, and there's little grooved lines around the peg. Position it in the position you want by taking it in and out and turning it, but don't turn it when it's in, or you'll rip the wing off the peg. Now we'll take a closer look at the individual pieces that make this figure up, and I think the actual sculpt on the base of this figure, like the actual body, is pretty strong. The paint's good too. I really like the little sculpted bend of the knee there and the way the statue's fabric hangs. I also really like the torso fabric, like the way it bunches here at the waist, even though it's got that little gap. And since this is a 2-pack, it happens on the other figure too. It's not isolated to just the one. You can see here as well, there is quite a gap there. So that's kind of annoying. Now, not only do I like the way the fabric kind of bunches, but I really like the paint. I think the use of like brown paint over a gray base is really, really effective and looks really cool. Now let's take a closer look at these heads, because these heads, I think, are pretty awesome looking. And they're spooky looking too. I mean, obviously the Weeping Angels in the show are spooky looking, but I think the way they sculpted their heads and the mouths, they got the look of them, in my opinion, perfect. This really, really does represent, how they look in the show, and the actual sculpting of the hair really, really looks good. But the way they, focused on like the little stony paint lines on the side of the head, I think this has a really, really solid paint job, especially, when you get to the mouth and the nose area and just how much darker it gets. And if you thought that head was creepy, just take a look at this one. Ugh. Now this one's got another great sculpt for the hair. I think the sculpting on this is perfect, but they did a great job painting the hair as well. But what they really did a great job on is that face. I mean, the wrinkling around the eyes and the furrowed brow and those teeth, Ugh, it's just gross. And I think they did a really good job with that tongue in the mouth. But the wrinkles around like the nose where the cheeks lift, the jawline and the wrinkling of the chin, this is just great work. And I think this is a really, really creepy looking head. Then we can also take a look at the arms here, just so you can get a better look at like what we're dealing with as far as like the painting of the stone elements on the right and left, like lunging hands or lunging arms, and just like the sculpting of the hands as well, like the actual like little palms of them. Like I think, you know, sculpting on this is good. Like they really read like well posed, but the paint on them to achieve that like stone effect, it's pretty good. Like I'm really digging what I'm seeing here. And lastly, I'll just show you the outreached arms. I mean, you know, it's pretty basic. It's a gray base with like a little brown sort of paint that went over it, but the little like tiny like I don't want to call it dotting, but there's some lines and there's some like misted paint. Like it's very intricate little dots. But I dig it. Lastly, we have a look at the wings and like the work that went into them. And I think they look really, really good as far as like creating a stone effect goes. Like there's a good texture to these. And then the actual like brown paint that went over them looks really good too. Here they are from the back, which you don't see that often. And just here's a look at the other wing, so you can just see, you know, the elements of brown paint being used. Here's a size comparison between the Weeping Angel and the Big Chief 10th Doctor figure. You can see that it's a little bit shorter than the 10th Doctor, but not by much. It's also worth pointing out that the bottom of the figure, I probably should have showed you this before, but the bottom of the figure has like a little felt thing to the bottom of it, so it's not polystone like the rest, it's like a soft felt material underneath. The Weeping Angel figures are sold individually or in this limited edition 2-pack. The individual figures each come with one of these little figure stands. This 2-pack not only comes with 2, but also comes with this limited edition attachment piece that connects right there and, you know, makes a bigger diorama with the tombstone from Blink, but it's reversible via magnets to also have the tombstone from The Angels Take Manhattan. And I think this is a really, really cool, not only accessory, but like a limited edition kind of accessory. I think this is pretty damn sweet. Also, speaking of limited edition, there's also this. Ugh. If you were one of the first people to order this online, you would get a little like Weeping Angel cherub from The Angels Take Manhattan. Ugh. And if you saw the episode, you know just how like creepy these little buggers are. And I think they did a great job with the little sculpt on this. His face is just creepy as all heck. They did a great job on the hair. The pose is great. His little cherub baby fat body is awesome. His wings look good. His little angel butt looks good. The little stone paint, all these little stone lines are really, really well done. And it actually stands pretty good on its own. Like I had my doubts, maybe something this little wouldn't be able to stand upright, but yeah, it stands pretty good. I'm a big fan of the Weeping Angel. I think it's one of the Doctor's creepiest villains, and I've got a few of the Underground Toys 5-inch action figures. I've got a pop, but I've got to say this has got to be the best, probably the defining Weeping Angel toy to get, like collectible. It looks just like how it does on the show. You know, the 12-inch scale detail is fantastic. It certainly represents it. Now, it may not be the cheapest, especially if you live in the U.S. The U.S. dollar to pound conversion rate isn't really good, and the you know, the shipping to the U.S. is pretty pricey as well. But if you're a fan of Doctor Who, if you're a fan of the Weeping Angels, I think you're gonna be really satisfied with this. Even if you get, you know, just the individual angel figure, it's a great figure. And if you get the 2-pack, I think this tombstone is a really cool accessory. And if you're lucky enough to get the cherub, that's a really creepy accessory. But the 2-pack, the cool benefit is it allows you to display them at the same time in 2 different poses, which for me is ideal because they're both such iconic poses. I like displaying both of them, posing the wings differently. I think this turned out just great. I think, you know, Big Chief Studios just did a great job with these. You know, aside from that little, you know, gap right there, it doesn't really bother me when I'm standing a couple feet away. These look just awesome on the shelf. I love it. Thanks for watching. And don't blink.